this is for any DIY space. If you should know that there are a couple people there 2 hours early and there are a couple people there 2 hours late. And you got to be one of those people if you want to book at the print shop.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. I'm glad you're right here with me. My name is Tyler Herrera, and this is Hardcore Dropout. So what you heard up front was my friend Bryan Phillips out in San Diego. He is a singer and guitar player in a band called All Beat Up. They absolutely fucking rip. They are a hardcore band with a lot of punk influence, a lot of power violence influence. Phenomenal band. On top of that, he books a lot of shows. He has a DIY mentality. He puts out records on a label called Human Future. He produces music at a studio in San Diego called Sunsick. The dude just lives and breathes hardcore. So if you listened to my episode a few weeks ago with Jen from Tucson and Stoke Hold Booking, then I think you will love this episode because a lot of the same themes resonate. And I was very excited not just to feature a friend, but I am always going to be excited to feature someone who has a very DIY approach to hardcore, because even as hardcore has grown and gotten bigger and bigger and will continue to do so, at the end of the day, none of that is possible without the people booking local shows at local venues with local bands. So without further ado, Bryan Phillips. Bryan, welcome to Hardcore Dropout.
Hey, bud.
So stoked to have you. You know, a couple of my guests so far have been people that I know via shows, but obviously you and I go back, several years if I think about it, back to when I was working at Dark Horse. But how's life in San Diego been?
It's really good. My old dog is go, Bubba. My dog, right when you started, my dog was like, "I have a Kong, Dad. You want to play?" I was like,
of course. Yep.
So Tristan just took her into the other room.
Hell yeah.
But San Diego is really good, man.
Oh yeah.
It's been a little cold, but like that's whatever. It's been good. It's been really good because my world is really good. I both personally and like passionately, punk rockily. It's been great. Like the shows are good, the bands are good, the vibes are good. The rent's pretty fucking high, but what do you do?
You do pay for the best weather on planet Earth.
Well, tell the weather that, because it's been cold as shit for San Diego.
Yeah, I was going to say, by San Diego standards, yes, very cold.
Well, that's something that people who transplants to San Diego, even from colder places, know that San Diego cold is sneaky because our buildings, everyone who built a house in San Diego built a house with the idea that the weather's perfect. So like it's not, the walls are all very thin. There's not a lot of, it's not like built like a house in Minnesota. It's built like a house in San Diego. And in that way, and specifically in the city, not really in the burbs. In the city, there's a lot of old single family homes like built in the 60s or sooner in the city proper. And the temperature inside is the temperature outside because you're living in something very thin. So that like 52 degrees that people say that's not cold. It's like, well, what if that was the temperature inside your house all the time?
Absolutely.
It's not cold.
Yeah. Not to mention, I think, when I lived there, probably more than half the places I lived in did not have a functioning heater.
No, why would they?
Exactly. Yeah, and so like you have a space heater, but that can only do so much. You can maybe heat up your bedroom, but your living room, your kitchen, all that's pretty fucked.
Yeah. San Diego is sneaky cold in the winter because you can't really escape it. I go to bed in a hoodie sometimes. Yeah. It's ludicrous.
Well, and also I think some of the humidity there, just being on the ocean, I am not a meteorologist, but I would assume that plays into it as well.
Yeah, it does. It does. But still, it's gorgeous. We live perhaps in the most beautiful city in the world, and 100%. Boy, do we pay for it.
Yeah, so, absolutely. You're not wrong. No, yeah, every time I go back, I am reminded that it is truly just like the best fucking place in this entire country, possibly in the whole world.
It's hard to leave. It's hard to want to live. And the only thing that makes you want to leave is how expensive it is to live here. They did, and San Diego has now, but they did a study where because everyone reposted it when the study came out because someone made like an infographic about it where like San Diego is the least affordable city to live in. So not the most expensive, but where the gap between the average rent and the average income is the greatest. So there are more expensive cities to live in, but the average income is higher in those cities. So it's like expensive and we're poor. It fucking sucks.
Well, because yeah,
It's great. I love it here, but like it's hard.
yeah, you really got to earn it there, and I guess realistically, San Diego doesn't have like a defining industry, whereas like LA has the entertainment industry, and like tons of money because of that. San Diego's a military city.
It's
You
that
know?
is what makes San Diego so unique too, because San Diego's a lot of different cities
Yeah.
kind of mushed into one. Because like we have a military base on the city, sucks. We have it's like a combination of like the worst. It's a very purple city.
Yeah.
I've described to people who haven't been
Wow.
there.
Yeah.
The city itself is a very purple city because you have like tech bros and military guys who are, espouse bullshit. And then you also have, we're also our sister city, Tijuana. We're right on the border. So then you have a bunch of Mexican people and a bunch of like, there's like a huge thriving art scene down here too, and music scene down here. So there's like, with that comes a certain amount of radical political ideas are always tied to art. They're tied to the best art. And so it's this interesting confluence of like dedicated people who are liberation minded and radical, and then dedicated people who are reactionary and very conservative, and they all share space in San Diego, like right next to each other.
100%.
Which is a trip. I mean, I love it. I was born here. I love it here. I'll ride for my city till the day they put me in the grave. But I will not pretend like I love everyone who lives here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, look, let's be real. We are, our beliefs are very much in the minority in terms of, political beliefs, philosophical beliefs,
Right.
and I've accepted like every city we would be the outcast in because of our beliefs, but it is sometimes feels very potent in San Diego because of that, exactly what you just said. It's like this crazy intersection of all these different cultures, being a border city and a military city. So you just gave me chills during that whole thing because I feel like that was the best description of San Diego I've ever heard.
Thanks. I think about it a lot. It's weird. The older I get, the more I used to not necessarily care about where, like the fact that I was born and I live in San Diego still.
Yeah.
But the older I get, the more I really appreciate the fact that I have roots here, because it's a beautiful place full of really good people.
100%. Yeah. I mean, the people that's what I've really been, it's been about 3 years now since I've been gone. And that's what I love the landscape out here in Arizona. I'm like deeply drawn to just like all the hiking and, all the nature shit I've seen out here. But dude, I do regularly think like, man, I fucking miss the people in San Diego,
Yeah, we're a special breed. I've come to realize,
Absolutely.
in the best way. Not to say that I don't. In my tenure as a guy in a band who goes on tour a lot, I've met really beautiful people everywhere. But it just kind of like I think probably it's my proximity to San Diego because I've lived here my whole life. We do have like a special brand of West Coast person that we're not like people from LA. We're not like people from the Bay. We're not like people from the Pacific Northwest. If you really come in, and I mean into the city, and like get to know, hang out, and soak up some of this cool radical art that's being made, you'll meet some amazing people that all have something in common that's hard to quantify. It's like that any city that develops its own culture, like the people from there have a thing, and you gotta go hang out with them to really soak it up.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, the older I get, the more proud I am of that, which I
Yeah.
think is cool.
Yeah. Could not agree more. It is definitely a unique city, especially living in the shadow of, the San Franciscos, the LAs of California, but San Diego's phenomenal. But take me back to early Bryan, because I know, we lived together for a bit, so I know your story with Jeremy and with D and stuff, getting into punk. But what were some of the early influences or your first memories of like, oh, this punk and hardcore shit is cool? Mind you,
Going back-
actually, real quick, let's give some context because you were in East County, San Diego.
Yes. You know what? That is important context. I grew up in East County, San Diego, and if you're from California or you've spent a lot of time there, you know that pretty much all the major cities are on the coast. And if you go anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes inland from the coast, you get a different experience.
Much different.
That's where I grew up. Santee, California, East County. When I was like 20ish, I moved out into San Diego City proper. And East County is a trip. I used to talk a lot of shit about it, and I don't really do that as much anymore. Because I've been gone from that place for so long that I don't feel comfortable making big statements about the way that it is, because it's no longer my community. My parents don't even live out there anymore.
Oh, wow. Damn.
Yeah. I haven't stepped foot in Santee in years, but I grew up there. I spent, and I met my best friends there, and they all, me and Dee are both from Santee. Jamie's from Lakeside. SD heads will know. That's east, baby. That's when you go from the beach to the desert. And I am comfortable saying, though, that like it is known in a lot of those 20 to 40 minutes inland from the city, from the main city, from the coast, California towns, they're known for being dusty and methy and having regressive politics. And not a great place to be someone who's not white or straight. And all of those things were true of my upbringing, even though I am, those things. I got to see the way that affected the people that I loved, who aren't those things. I got to, and that some of that was really hard. But some of the people from there, I don't want to brush with too broad stroke at all. That's something. So I can't deny that that was part of growing up in East County. But I also met people who are my friends to this day who are like radically minded and liberation minded and had those radical liberatory ideas when they were in East County. And I'm sure that those people exist there today. You can't condemn an entire region. It's full of people who have these different opinions. So, but I won't pretend that, it wasn't a thing with like, Peckerwoods, and there was like race fights between like the reservation and like the white boys were getting into it. It was a whole thing. And growing up was kind of a trip. It was really cool as a little kid because you're in the desert, so you just get to like play all the time. But then like the older I got and the more my brain formed, the more I was like, there's things going on around me that I do not like.
100%, yeah.
And people who grew up in like a desert town or like a California little town, I think will know what I'm talking about. But I don't want to like fully condemn it. It's a city full of people. It's a collection of towns full of people, and I'm sure it's pretty different since the last time I was there.
Yeah.
And it's responsible for making me. So that's something. I don't know if that's good or bad. It just is, man.
Yeah. No, I totally relate to it because I came even further out east, Imperial, Central area, and same thing. Agriculture reigns supreme, a lot of conservative beliefs, while at the same time being so close to the border that you do have all these varying, life experiences. And I mean, I can say the same exact thing. Like I came from that and I do not have conservative beliefs, like
when you're in punk or hardcore, radical politics come with it. I think I was the best punk and hardcore. Radical politics come with it. So, it's almost like a given that it's like, yeah, I know if we're into this like alternative subculture of hardcore and punk, we don't think that we don't agree with like the hegemonic larger American ideas about what you should be about or how you should think or what constitutes a person or not a fucking person. So like it's but a lot of the best stuff is made in areas that are more red as opposed to more blue because they're made. Good punk is often made in reaction to.
Yep.
So
yeah, 100% agree, and I think we're in for a lot of good punk and hardcore over the next 4 years, and hopefully not longer than 4 years, but we'll see. But another topic for another day. So
another topic for another day.
Not even another day. That'll take a whole year to discuss. Yeah. But so what was that first punk stuff that reached you?
My dad showed me a lot of stuff. Not a lot. My dad, my parents are from Minneapolis originally. And they were in California before they had me. So I have family out there, but like I never lived out there. I was born here in San Diego. At Grossmont Hospital, the same hospital where I read that Bones from Lower Class Brats was born in the same hospital as me.
No way.
Um,
Wild.
I have to find where I read. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere.
We'll take it at face value. Yeah.
Taking it case value, it's more fun if it's
100%.
true.
Yeah. I'm here for
I'm
it.
pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
But my dad liked a lot of stuff. My dad, what I got from my father was a voracious appetite for listening to lots of music. And the music that my dad first gave me that would be considered punk would be The Clash. And that kind of was my first inkling of like, oh, like, this is pretty cool. And then I started, this was in my junior high years. And I'm 32 now. I was born in 92. So that means that like by the time I was in junior high, internet wasn't something that everyone had. You know what I mean? A lot of people younger are like we were, because you and I are about the same age. We were kind of one of the last generations where it was like the internet existed the whole time since we were born, but the internet being in everyone's hands and in everyone's homes was something we kind of lived through.
Yeah.
So it was during that transitional period, I was listening to a lot of the radio because like I didn't have any money and I didn't know anything, and I'm in a little town where it's hard for me to figure out what's cool. So I just listened to the radio all the time. And that was, in a cool time in those like early 2000s, the radio was in a cool place. Not all of it was punk. Some of it was that cool, like early 2000s rock where it's like all of these indie rock bands and like garage rock bands were happening all at once, and they were all unique and they were all cool and they were all on 91X and 94.9, like Interpol and Block Party and Franz Ferdinand and the Arctic Monkeys record, whatever people say, and That's What I'm Not. The Bravery self-titled record. In that time, radio was some cool shit. But then they would play on 91X or 94.9, they would play the odd punk song. They'd be like, yeah, this is a Dead Kennedy song. Like, this is Rancid. This is, what they would play. And, it's a lot of like I call it like Google search punk, where it's like if you just Google punk bands, they're the ones that show. And those are the ones that those radio stations would play once in a blue moon, I was just listening to the radio so much every single day that when a punk song came on 91X or 94.9, I was always like, ooh, I'm really vibing to this. This is, I started to find my lane, Then another radio station, we're going big San Diego. This is a super San Diego heavy episode. I feel like if people are from San Diego, they're like, you're dropping a lot of references.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
But then, of course, our other rock radio station, 105.3, which would play the harder stuff, I would listen to it a little bit less because I wasn't into all of it. But, like, they would play cool stuff. Like, they would play good grunge, like Soundgarden. They would play... But then they would do, like, mandatory Metallica. So, like, they would play... Then they would hit me with Metallica, and I'd be like, this is shaking my brain. I love it. And then they would be like, System of a Down. And System of a Down had riffs.
Yeah.
So when I was like a child and my only access was the radio, the things that I would listen to it all and just soak it all up. But the things that resonated with me were when 91X and 94.9 would play punk, and when 105.3 would play either Metallica or like select new metal spoke to me. Other new metal didn't. And like I would like listen to the radio waiting for those things, and I would go between those three stations. And then you get older, iPods, internet in the house, then the ball gets rolling. And then I start to not just be, I go from like a 12, 13-year-old on Google search punk to like, as I'm getting into high school and I have friends who are into cooler punk and hardcore shit. And as, the internet is now in everyone's home, I get to dig into the stuff that I really like. And then I start to get into my niche interests that take me all the way to, today.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it happened. And then, funny story, actually, this is kind of when it turned from an interest into something that I know that I like, that I know that is a part of my identity, as opposed to just an interest, was I went to my first punk show when I was 15. It was a sewer show, which is not appropriately named because it's actually in the San Diego runoff system that's underneath a lot of our freeways. The sewer is like a hose pipe full of poop. You don't want to go there.
Yeah, not a good place to find yourself.
Not a good place to find yourself. Not a good place for a show. It's full of shit. They call them sewer shows because that's badass. But it's in the runoff system underneath our freeways. And me and 4 of my friends all lied to each other's parents about whose house we were sleeping over at because we're all 15 years old.
Yep.
And then we all got from the coolest punk people at our high school who were older than us were talking about a sewer show happening. And I was like, ooh, please tell me how to get there. Please. Can you let me in your club? And they were actually really cool. There was like where like the freaks would hang out and eat lunch. My brother, who is a normal guy, who I love, he called it the Land of Darkness. And I always loved that.
So wait, was he at your school also? So he saw it himself? Like,
yeah. Okay. We're twins. So
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We're twins, and he's like a normal man, like he's a doctor. And I love him. There's nothing wrong with it. We're just different. But he would be like, "Oh yeah, you eat lunch in the Land of Darkness." So I was like, "That's hilarious."
And you probably loved it.
Oh, I loved it. But yeah, that's where it was like anyone who it was like between the art building and the foreign language buildings at West Hills. So there you go, more regional stuff. For you guys to get really specific on. It was like punks, goths, rockers, skaters, weirdos. That's where we all ate lunch. And so it was some friends from the Land of Darkness who kind of told us how to get there and what to do. And we were like, yep, we're there. We're all lying to each other's parents. We're going to go on there. And it was like more of like street punk vibes was the show. It wasn't like a hardcore show. It was like a punk show. And those things, and people who interact with like DIY spaces. And when I say DIY spaces, there's degrees to that. Because there's like a DIY space like at Red Brontosaurus Records, we throw a show. Davey, who runs the record store, is there. We kind of like, there's people who work at the shop. It's a building. I'm talking about if you are at like an illegal generator show. That's DIY on another level. There's no staff. There's no security. It self-regulates.
Yeah.
So I get in the mosh pit and I'm having the time of my life. And then it's just like, ooh, I just like blackout. And at that point, my friend would almost, if they were here, they would pick up the narrative for me because they were like, from their perspective, it's like, oh yeah, like sometimes someone moshes too hard, fight breaks out, or like someone gets knocked over. You pick them up. The crowd self-regulates. Some people step in who are like, chill it out. We're all, and everything's fine. And it's a very anarchist way of doing things, and I think it rocks. So that happens in front of them, and they're like, oof, like this poor motherfucker just got his shit absolutely rocked.
Yeah.
Peel him off the ground. That's me. I'm that poor motherfucker. I have a gash on the side of my head and I'm bleeding.
Holy shit.
Down the side of my face. My jaw's a little weird. I don't know what happened. That's the thing is the details are fuzzy because I got hit in the head so hard that like it's all spotty for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I pissed someone off because I wasn't pitting right. We don't need to talk about pit discourse and launch discourse.
Yeah. No, we don't. Yeah.
So maybe it was something like that, though. Like the Bullet Belt crowd cares a lot less about that than the Air Jordans crowd.
Yeah,
has a lot more to say about those things. Or maybe it was just an accident, and I hit. And because at the time I was 15, I was skinny as a rail. I might have just hit a big guy and accidentally hit the ground. It could have been an accident. It could have been a fight. It is impossible to know, and I don't remember it because of blunt force trauma to my head. But my jaw was all messed up, and I was bleeding a lot, and we had nowhere to go, and I was being like under my arms. My friend like had me like this, and we were like getting out of the show. And we had nowhere to be, so we called our friend who recently graduated high school, and he had an apartment in Spring Valley, and he came and picked us up, and we slept at his house, and I took a shower, and like he just moved out of his parents' house, so like we were 15 or 16, and he was like freshly 18. You know what I mean? It was just like kids raising kids.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And he didn't have any medical supplies. You remember your first apartment when you were a kid. And so he's just like, here's some paper towels. And I was like, okay. And that's when I thought, like, yeah, I could do that for the rest of my life. And so far I have.
Yeah, truly. And that's what I'm thinking this whole story. I'm like, man, to get knocked out and to still wake up from that and be like, that was fucking awesome. Let's do that again. That's how you know it's, like you said, become a true part of your identity.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
fucking
then I
love it.
did. Yeah, then I did, man.
That's so awesome. And that's like, so at what point did you realize you're in San Diego in the 2000s? There's a pretty potent scene there at the time because you have Che Cafe, Soma's there for bigger shows. Like, how did that evolve into like getting more involved in shows?
That is tied, interesting, because we're going to probably talk about the record scene. That's tied to All Beat Up.
Okay. Wait, are you about to talk about meeting Jeremy and Dee?
No, not really, because that's
Okay.
a different. I'll say me and Jeremy and Dee, the three members of All Beat Up, we grew up together in the literal sense of the word.
Yeah.
I've known Dee since I was 15 years old. I met Jeremy when I was 18 years old, and now I'm 32.
Yeah.
And we lived together during that span of time. We lived together for the better part of a decade too. So like we really grew up together in that second, we call it the second adolescence.
Yes,
When like
yeah.
you go from being a young adult to a grown person.
Yep.
That phase 2 adolescence, we did that fully together. And with me and Dee going back even a little bit further into high school. But I was in between bands. I played in a bluegrass band with Jeremy for a little bit. It was cool. I know. And love punk. My life is kind of about it, but also like I'm not doing anything with it. So then I decided to start All Beat Up. And we didn't start as a hardcore band. We started as just like a punk band, and then we got harder and darker and harder and dark. We did the reverse AFI, which
Yeah.
is that we got less listenable.
Yeah.
Not less listenable, but you know what I mean? Like it just got like darker and more putrid and more intense and more kind of frightening as it went along. So it started as just like a punk rock band, and now we're whatever you want to call us now. Definitely hardcore, but a lot of other things too. But the scene comes and goes in waves. There's times of plenty, and there's times of famine. And when All Beat Up was first starting, it felt like a time of famine. And I kind of was talking to some of my friends, like Sean and Blaine, about this too, about that time, which is like the 20 teens. There was still cool stuff happening, don't get me wrong. There was obviously like good shows happening at the Shea, good shows were happening everywhere, but like on the huge community holding hands tip of like cool stuff happening, kind of not just that like the couple local bands in town will play before the big boys come into town, but like our own shit. It was kind of dry time. And so I had to just start doing things on my own. So I was just like, let me just throw a show in my friend's backyard until the cops come. Let me throw a show here. Let me try to find someone else in a band and become a friend. Because we probably will be friends because we have a lot of common interests. We both like to be in like hardcore bands. And then B, also because like we gotta get together. And it feels like me and I'm not saying that I did this because I didn't. I think a lot of people at the same time were feeling that way in the 20 teens.
Yeah.
So everyone was kind of reaching out, and then like everyone started to, pardon me, everyone started to connect in the late 20 teens, almost like before the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I owe a lot to like Mick from Tower Bar, because he was one of the first guys who was just like, I went into Tower Bar. I was like, can I have a concert here? There's really good shows here.
Yeah.
And what I love about Mick and I love about Tower Bar is his first answer is always yes. He's always like, yeah, sure. It's fine. And he does it really well. The door always goes to the band. He doesn't take any of the door. And he's just like, yeah, if you have a show here on a Wednesday, there's going to be more people in here than there otherwise would have been at this dive bar in City Heights on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
So sure, come on down. And then when, and then you start getting Fridays, start getting Saturdays. But like his first answer is always yes. Hey, Mick, rocks. Tower Bar,
Fuck yeah.
rocks. For a 21 and up venue. Obviously,
Yeah.
hardcore's for the kids, baby. But like it's a youth movement. There has to be. There can't just be 32-year-old lifers like me and you. There also has to be kids who are coming up and getting into it too. All of that has to interplay. But so for 21 and up venues, Tower Bar is the one.
100%.
Tower Bar behaves as a venue the way like a DIY behaves, but it happens to be a bar. It's really cool.
Very centrally located too. Great spot in the city. Like,
Yeah.
it's fucking also just an iconic shape. And, the architecture of it is just like, if you're a San Diegan, you know exactly what Tower Bar is.
Getting hit by 3 cars.
Yeah. And still survived all of that.
Still survived.
Yeah.
Still survived. One of the times it was a show I was throwing with a band
Wait.
from Panama. Yeah.
While the
we
show
had
was
to
going on?
relocate. Huh?
While
before the show
Okay.
was going on. Sorry, before the show was going on.
Okay.
A car hit Tower Bar, and
Insane.
Mick calls me and he's like, "A car hit the bar," and I was like, "Again?" And I had to scramble, and
Yeah.
we eventually relocated the show to Red Brontosaurus Records in North Park. Shout out Davey as well, and it worked out. But yeah, it's very funny. It was just kind of a stressful time for me to be like, I got this band from another country that I've booked, and I've got all these people, and I'm trying to make this
no
happen.
kidding.
It ended up working out.
Wild.
But yeah, so it was kind of out of necessity that I started making the opportunities for myself exist that didn't. And then in doing so, I met like-minded people and we formed a community. And now, in comparison to then, the community is massive.
Yeah.
In San Diego. And it involves so many awesome people. But I started getting more involved in the hardcore scene because I just wanted to be a part of a community that was doing cool stuff. And then, so when you put yourself out there, and I'm a yapper. I'm like, I can really hang out, especially if I have a couple of souls,
Yeah. Certified yapper.
Certified yapper.
Yep. Can confirm.
So it's not that hard for me to just be like, all right, like if I just go to shows go to shows that I want to see and just like be like, hi, I'm going to make eye contact with you and shake your hand. My name's Brian.
Yeah.
Would you like to be friends?
I mean, dude, I think the
it
first
was
time you came into Dark Horse, D was probably a customer at that point, but you immediately started conversation. So I can attest to it for sure.
Yeah. So I just did that and then had a good time, met people who are like my friends.
Yeah.
Now some of my closest friends in the world, but at the time was just like, we just want to do this hardcore thing together.
Yeah.
So let's. And now it's a huge thing that I'm happy to contribute to. I still book a lot of shows. I run like a local record label called Human Future Records where like we put out local bands and I book a lot of shows and I help out with a lot of stuff. But it's because I love the sensation of being a part of a community. Like lifting something up while also feeling it lift you up.
100%. Yeah. Very, very eloquent way to put it. I think that's what we all feel, as someone who has dipped in and out of hardcore over the years and now feel fully back in it. Like that is what I'm loving about it again is like, yeah, you lift this thing up. I would like to think I'm contributing with this podcast, but
You are.
really the payoff is just that I get to participate. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
We'll bring together.
Yeah.
It rocks.
Yeah, it's awesome. So definitely feel that. And so this is like early 20s then, right? That you're probably starting with. Okay. And so for listeners who are outside of San Diego, we got to have the Che discussion because
Sure.
Che is legendary. So are shows happening at Che at this time?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally
Okay.
there. More shows happen now than did then, but shows are happening. Good shows.
Yeah.
Are still happening.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Because I remember in the 2000s, probably like the mid to late 2000s, my oldest brother, 8 years older than me, so he was taking me to see more like traditional hardcore stuff, like Bane I saw there, Have Heart, the Mongoloids, like Soul Control, like a lot of like Revelation Records type shit and Bridge 9 type shit. But then I feel like it did dip for a while, but then slowly it sounds like came back up in the 2010.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously my story is gonna be different from everyone else's because everyone's got a little bit of blinders because everyone's like friends with who they're friends with and interact with who they interact with, and there's people who are into the same things that I'm into that like have a totally different experience of the 20 teens being in San Diego and like making music happen, and that's fine. In fact, those people we know each other now because the scene is so hold handsing right now that
Yeah.
like the fucking power violence weirdos and the straight edge guys and the leather jacket disc rockers and like the moshers like and specifically in San Diego, like we really are all homies. It fucking rocks.
Fucking
But
awesome.
that speciation was a little bit more separate in what I would call the time of famine, whereas in the time of plenty, we've all really come together in
Yeah.
a way that's super wholesome.
Yeah. It's fucking awesome. And so
Yeah,
Che,
out of necessity is why I got so involved because I didn't see it around me. And
Yeah.
I wasn't. I gotta go find it, and if I want to go find it, I want to do it. And if I want to do it, then I should probably help. And
Absolutely.
that's one thing comes after another.
which I think is very much also the identity of Che because it's, it's all volunteer. It's a collective, Che Cafe collective. So you want to give some insight on that? Because I think, I've been removed from it for a bit. I think you could give some really good insight on Che's history and just why it's so important to San Diego.
It's and I'm going to give you the cliff notes on it, and there are people who could probably speak to it better than me because I've never volunteered at the Che, though I have been very helpful to the Che in my life. And that whenever I book a show, I make sure to I'm bringing the back line. I'm going to show up early. I'm going to make sure everything goes well, and I'm going to be of as much assistance to the volunteers who are here as possible. That's very important to me. The current Che house kit was donated by All Beat Up.
Fuck yeah.
So that's pretty fun. But I've never volunteered there. But I'll say the Che, it is a radical space for. That's my word for tonight is radical.
I'm here for it.
Both in the tubular way and in the political way, which is very San Diego.
I was just going to say, dude, that is peak San Diego. Throwing a shaka, saying radical, and also punk as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, like radical and like Che Guevara radical as well. Both.
Here for it.
It's a radical space for mostly music, but it is a functioning cafe. It is a resource for the students at UCLA to go to.
UCSD.
Or UCSD. Why I say UCLA? UCSD. I didn't go to those colleges, man. Colleges are drag. UCSD. And it's a resource for those students to, there's like hours where you can just go study. It is a functioning cafe, and they have some of the best shows for alternative music of any kind that you could possibly go to.
Yeah.
For people, it is a functioning cafe. It is a place for students of UCSD to go. They have some of the best music you'll ever see, as long as it is music that is alternative in some way. It's typically welcome there. And so it's a space where a lot of great punk has been, a lot of great hardcore has been, a lot of great art is shown there, and it is inherently tied to having radical politics because it is named after Che Guevara.
Yeah.
It's in the hands of a rotating cast of 19-year-olds, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
There are volunteers now. It's like every time I've been going to the Che and playing shows at the Che too, in whatever band I happen to be in since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And every time you go, it's just a new group of 19-year-olds.
Yep.
The Che. And I think that's important.
100%. Yeah.
It's good that it is a rotating cast of like mostly students, but some non-students who make it. And then there's like elders too. Like shout out to Dill. He books there under. It's called Dread Presence.
Okay.
Presents like Santa presents.
Okay. Dread presents. Okay.
Yeah. Dread Presents. Merry Christmas. Dread presents. But he is like one of the older cats who volunteers there, and he holds it down and throws a lot of cool shows there. My label, who I run with my friend Michael, my friend and bandmate in a different band, Michael Brogan, we run this label, and we'll book shows there sometimes too. We always communicate with the volunteers to be like, is this open? Can we get in? Can we do our thing here? Will be helpful, whatever. But that's kind of, as far as I've understood, that's kind of always how it's gone. There's like a group of dedicated volunteers. They keep the lights on, and then people who do punk or hardcore or whatever weird thing come to them and say, "Can we do this here?" And the answer is almost always yes. And they hold space for that. And then because they've been doing it for so long, and it's so funny, so people from outside of San Diego are like, "The Che, like, it's so San Diego," and I can't help but chuckle because it's like 25 minutes north of the city.
Yeah.
You gotta get there.
100%.
It's in San Diego County, that's for sure. But like, still, we love it. And everyone who plays music of almost any kind in San Diego has a soft spot in their heart for the Che Cafe. And as far now, people older than me, it might have been different in the past. As far as I know, that's kind of how it's always been. Is like a group of dedicated, typically pretty young radicals, does the day-to-day and keeps the lights on, and they are able to make the space available to everyone who wants to throw crazy shows there. And if you look at the flyers pasted on the walls, or if you do some digging, I guarantee you that if you are into like hard or heavy music, your favorite band played one of the best shows they've ever played in that room. It rocks.
Yep. It's such a cool, beyond just being a historic venue, it is just a cool venue. You know,
Awesome.
it's in the woods up there. Like, you would drive past it and never think so many legendary bands have played in there. And then the rafters being right there, like, you know, that you can reach, like, it's just a fucking historic venue. So definitely a San Diego gem.
Yeah. Big time.
So what about now? I know you guys are doing a lot of, it's called the print shop. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, the print shop is that's where we, at least for me and my people, like me and Michael, for through some of Future Records and some of our contemporaries, because there's so much good hardcore happening in San Diego. It's almost like speciated in a way, even though we all know each other and like each other. It's speciated out of necessity because it's so big and so cool and so happening, which I love. And so we've kind of just found our home at the print shop. And it's run by Colin and Johnny, and they're in a band called Se Vende, which is cool. You should check them out if you like pop punk, but like grimier. They like to call it pop crust.
Fuck yeah!
Like if you like Reviver, you know what I mean? Where
Dude,
it's like pop punk,
God,
but this is kind of gnarly.
Yeah.
They're in a lane that you will like. And they run a print shop, and they make shirts for most of the bands in the city, you know, and on top of, they make all the shirts for Hodad's Burgers, I think, because they run a print shop as their career, and they have like, you know, various more corporate clients, but then a lot of their clients are just local bands. And it's in the Morena area. That's as much as I'll say, because it's on that East the Punk level.
Yeah.
But it's in an area that is not residential at all. In fact, it's a bunch of like warehouses in San Diego, kind of an area. So they're like, oh, we can have shows here because like, who cares if it's loud? When it's 6 p.m., no one's here but us or someone who's working late, and they don't care because it's like a dirty warehouse part of town.
Yeah.
And that's where their print shop is. And they're like, well, we could have shows. And I started seeing that they had a couple shows, and then I got involved. And they're really, really good friends of mine and Michael's and like my whole crew. And they're just really sweet guys who are punk lifers who are down for the cause. And we've thrown a lot of great hardcore shows and a lot of great power violence shows and a lot of great punk shows there over the last couple of years. And we just do our best to keep it around. We're keeping their business afloat because we're trying to get bands to buy their stuff. They also they take a little bit of the door, as they well should, because they are taking on all the risk. If something goes wrong, then that's their business, where they make their money and pay their rent.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's like we're helping them keep their lights on by having shows, because they take a totally appropriate percentage of the door, like nothing crazy. But it's like it helps them keep the lights on there. They get to contribute to the scene because they're like punk lifers, and we get to do this thing in a DIY space that is not under fire all the time. Like the Che is always under fire, which sucks, and it's because UCSD doesn't want it to be around. which is bullshit. And every time UCSC tries to close it, the volunteers at the chain ring the bell, and everyone in the city who's ever been to a show that they liked, which is almost everyone, shows up, signs the petition, calls the number, and we're like, no, you're not closing this place down. But that doesn't happen at the print shop because it is in the middle of a dirty warehouse zone. Nobody even knows that we do it. Like, no one knows it's happening other than us and a bunch of people who have come to our shows. It was called once the worst kept secret in San Diego, which is really funny.
Love that.
But it's awesome, and those guys are super excellent, and they embody everything that I think is cool about punk and hardcore. And I book a lot of shows there. Me and Michael book a lot of shows there. And there was like a lot of we helped build one of their walls was old, and it had a bunch of termite and water damage, and it had been washed into a lot. And so I reached out. We didn't do like a GoFundMe or anything because we only needed a couple $100. It was like $300 or $400 worth of materials. And I reached out to a bunch of people just who I know are true. And we gathered the funds. And we basically, with my friend John Rogers, shout out John, we brought me and Michael and a bunch of people, brought our hands. And then John Rogers, who like works in construction, brought his tools and his know-how, and we like rebuilt an entire wall in the print shop.
Fuck yeah.
Like super sturdy now, which like helps their business and helps them keep throwing shows. I love that place so much. You just got to check out. We're not the only people who book there, by the way. We book there a lot, but they work with some other people. They are choosy with who they work with for good reason.
Yeah.
You know, they have to trust you pretty hard to let you like do your thing in their space. So it's kind of some people have come to me or like messaged my band or my label and been like, how can I book at the print shop, in a way that's almost like we're talking about a regular venue? And I'm like, in the most respectful way possible. That is not me being a shitty gatekeeper. Like, you kind of can't, because the people are putting a lot at risk in doing this. So they choose who they work with based off of like actual relationships that they've built in like a pretty radical amount of trust goes into that. So it's not that I'm cool and you're lame, because I hate that tip. It's that like, it's not like a regular venue. You know, I would say if you want to book at the print shop, you should come to a lot of print shop shows, and you should like, I don't know, show up early and help us move equipment out of the shop so that we can get it ready for the show. And you should stay late with me and sweep up cigarette butts and pick up gross beer cans at the end of the night. Because every time we have a print shop show, me and Michael and like the people who, you know, kind of know what's up. And I'm not saying it to like be scoldy or say like, I'm not trying to be on a high horse. It's just like, whenever you do anything in a DIY space, I'll say this is for the print shop, but this is for any DIY space. If you should know that there are a couple people there 2 hours early and there are a couple people there 2 hours late. And you got to be one of those people if you want to book the print shop. Which is like, you got to show up early and move that shit around and get the stage ready, or turn the room into a stage. And then you got to stay late, and you got to take out the gross trash, and you got to sweep up all the cigarette butts, and you got to clean up the beer cans. And then if you're staying late doing those things, we'll probably get to know you, and then we'll start being friends. And then we'll be real friends. You know, it's not like a get of like a regular venue, like, oh, here's the contact for who does their booking and here's their email. Like, we gotta be real friends, man. And not that I don't hold the keys to the print shop, it's theirs. That's my experience with working with them, is that like they're rightfully so a little choosy. So if you want to do that, then like be about it. And if you're about it, they'll see that and they'll probably work with you if you really are about it. But yeah, not just the print shop, any DIY space for anyone. Kids, children, younglings, listening, not to be an old head.
No, yeah.
People show up early and stay late to make this punk rock shit and this hardcore shit that you like happen. So maybe don't trash the bathroom.
1,000%. It's always a fucking bathroom too, man. I'm like,
oh, it's a bathroom.
Yeah, and I'm just like, no one likes a fucking dirty, shitty bathroom. Like, just respect the bathroom at the very least, and you'll be fine.
And you'll be fine. That's me on my old head shit. But it's true, man. Do you like this stuff? Like, then act like you want to keep it around.
1,000%. And, you know, because hardcore and punk, you know, there is an element of not giving a fuck. You know, we go to these places because they're safe spaces, but that doesn't mean you can disrespect the space.
Right.
Yeah.
Well
and that's just like, you know, as someone who obviously owned a business before and stuff, it's like I totally get where the print shop is coming from because, dude, having your name on a commercial lease and having equipment, having to pay bills, it is a massive fucking liability.
Yeah.
It is like, and that comes first for the print shop because that's what they are at the end of the day is a business, and so by and large, it sounds like they are doing a massive favor and, are an important part of the San Diego
and
scene.
they're getting up there now with, because I work with them so much, so I know a lot more about the print shop than I did. A lot of what I spoke about the Che was just like kind of gleaning information from like spending a lot of time there. But like I'm sure, hopefully you will interview someone who's more involved at the Che than I am, and they'll probably give you even more information than I had because I'm mostly like an attender / help out when I'm there kind of a guy. So I only know so much. But the print shop I know much more intimately because of how often I'm there, in what capacity. And they are slow. The print shop, if it keeps going in the way that it's going, the print shop is going to be talked about like Tower Bar is talked about and like the Jay is talked about. If it keeps going for a number of years. And we've had excellent, huge bands play at the print shop. We've had crazy shit go down there.
That's fucking awesome.
So it's if it sticks around, it's gonna become part of that San Diego zeitgeist, which I love. I love that for my friends who are doing it. I love that I get to be a part of it in some way. I love that I got to help it. I love that I get to continue to help it because being helpful fucking rocks.
Yeah, I mean like I said earlier, the payoff is just participating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Time. Well, you started to touch on it a little bit, but something I'm so excited to talk about is your band All Beat Up. Yeah. Because you guys just dropped, would you call it an EP or an album? Because it's 7 songs?
It's, I've got a copy here. It's 7 songs. I don't know. It's on an LP. I'm going to call it an LP.
Yeah, 100%. Well, that's fair.
It's like 16 minutes. I don't know. That's the thing, though, is on one hand, we're in this weird time where we've got like 15 or 16 minutes of music, and that's more than a 7-inch, almost a touch more than a 10-inch. Nobody wants 10 inches. But it'll fit great on an LP, especially if you run it at 45. Yeah. So we're like, all right, I guess it's an LP. It's the 7 songs that we have written in that we worked really hard on and we're really proud of. And you know what? My attention span's always been bad. I was diagnosed with ADHD as a child. So and I like punk, obviously. So my attention span is tough. So I'm like, you know what? 16 minutes of music is what you want to listen to from a new band. That's kind of, as far as I'm concerned, it's both what we had and also like I'm comfortable with that amount of music because I feel like that's enough music to like sit down and check out. At least for me, I'll just burn 7 inches over and over, and that's even less, So
yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Fuck yeah, I love it.
Yeah, we'll call it an LP because it's on one.
I love that. So just dropped an LP, and
yeah,
I'm so fascinated by All Beat Up sound. So I want to hear from you. How would you describe All Beat Up sonically?
I knew this question was coming.
It's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll do. I had an idea about this. I'm going to describe you what All Beat Up's trying to do.
Love it.
And then I'm going to ask the question to you.
Okay, cool. I'm here for it.
And I have some examples of some of my other friends, what they have said.
Okay.
What All Beat Up tries to do is we like to challenge ourselves as musicians and songwriters for playing things that are difficult and interesting. And we like to challenge ourselves on a taste level and on a creative level where we want to consistently be interesting and surprising to ourselves. All Beat Up sets out to be a band that is surprising and interesting to someone who is already pretty well read in punk and hardcore. So we want to fully sit in the hardcore punk umbrella while doing something that someone who's already comfortable with the music in that umbrella goes, oh, that was cool. And we try to do that for ourselves. So All Beat Up is like a beast of change. Now, not to say that all bands have to reinvent the wheel, not even that we did, but like we're always trying to one-up ourselves, writing difficult things, but also not just difficult for the sake of, that still sound cool. We're trying to push the boundaries of our own taste, of our own playing ability, and make something that is interesting and surprising to someone who already likes hardcore punk. That's what we're trying to do. So with that as the context of our stated goal, what did you think of the record? What do you think of our
I
sound?
love it. First off, I think that is a very apt way to describe it, is like you are doing something that someone who's in hardcore and punk would hear and identify with it quickly, but also I'm not just kissing your ass, but I genuinely believe like it is very unique. So having been familiar with, some of your guys' material before, but this is the first like collection of songs that I've heard from you guys and that I can put on just on my record player. My thoughts are it is like rooted in like traditional hardcore punk, but there's an element of like power violence to it and aggression that is really like turned up to 10. And the thing that stands out to me the most is the songwriting is totally unpredictable, and I absolutely fucking love that part of it. Like I feel like each song starts at one place, and normally you can find a pattern in a song, but each song I'm like starts at one place and I don't know where it's going to end, and I'm totally fucking here for it.
I love that answer. Thank you
Fuck
for
yeah.
your words.
And
That was
and
perfect.
I kid you not, that is not just me like, oh, I'm going to gas Brian up. It is like,
I mean, I'll take it.
yeah,
Mine's the
it's
top right now. Gas me up. I want to feel good about
yeah,
something.
take it, man, because it is real and true, and I fucking love what you guys wrote.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah. No, that's perfect because my friend Jose, he's a drummer in Dry Socket from Portland. They
Okay.
rock. When we put out the record, he blasted it and he was like, if you like Cult Leader and Trash Talk, you'll like this band. And I'm like, what a crazy, I love that. And then my buddy Gary, he's the lead singer of a power violence band called Regression. We played with them one time and he came up to me and was like, you guys definitely like Iron Lung a lot, but like you're more of a hardcore band. And I was like, yeah, you're correct. And my buddy Derek, he's an Axe Collector with me, which is a different band, and he's in Major Pain. He told me that it sounds like Early Ceremony died and went to hell.
And rotted in hell.
And rotted.
Yes.
What I like about everyone's answer and yours is, and what tells me that hopefully we succeeded in our attempt at making something interesting, is that like everyone is right and everyone had a different answer, which I like a lot. Like it's not like, and there's nothing wrong with the genre, Dan. Don't get me wrong. Like I love Power Trip, and Power Trip records sound like Power Trip. They don't sound like a lot of other things. And rest in peace, Riley Gale. They could have made 10 more records that sound like Power Trip. I would have bought every one. Like I love a genre band, especially if you're doing what you do well. Sign me up. I love that shit. But like, that's not what we are. We're trying to twist our own expectations. And, and the fact that so many people have so many different impressions of what we're doing, and so many people had different references that they wanted to talk to us about, tells me that I think we're close to succeeding at being just surprising and interesting. That's all we really want to set out to do.
Yeah.
So that rocks. I love that. I love everyone who's like got out of the way to talk to me about the record. I've loved all the answers, not just because, I mean, part of it is like, yeah, like basic psychology. Someone says something nice to you, you're like, oh boy, happy feelings. No one was nice to me. But also because it tells me that like, I think we're doing what we set out to do. The variety in everyone's answers tells me that like, yes, we're succeeding in what we set out to do.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. No, it is genuinely like, I was really taken aback by it, and I listened to it twice before this podcast.
Nice.
Yeah, just because I was like, oh, I just want to get in the headspace, and I put it on, and yeah, it has all the anger and aggression of a power violence band, but you can hear just some of the more traditional hardcore elements. But again, with the weird songwriting and stuff, like you mix all that together, and I'm like, this is like genuinely a really unique collection of songs.
It's been interesting to play. I'll say that's almost a double-edged sword, but I won't say it's a double-edged sword because it is actually a blessing that we have found ourselves on a lot of different kinds of lineups.
Yeah.
Because if you listen to the band, you can hear Discharge Or if you listen to the band with different ears, you can hear Converge. Or if you listen to the band with different ears, you can hear like Iron Lung. And so we found ourselves on a lot of different kinds of lineups. And sometimes it's the coolest thing ever, and sometimes it does fall flat.
Yeah.
Like sometimes, like what we have one of two. We All Beat Up live has two experiences. It is either mostly stunned silence, or people just go fucking bonkers. And it depends on what kind of show we're on. Because sometimes when we're on like a genre show, I'll say it, where it's like, because we fit well on a cool mix bill, where it's like there's like kind of like a more punk rock, like D-beat disc rocker band before us, and then there's like a super heavy mosh band after us, and we're like in the middle. We thrive on those cool mix bill lineups. I love them. But like sometimes, like we opened for Madball at Brick by Brick. Yeah, I know. We opened for Madball.
The fuck. I
Yeah.
like. I'm not, the East Coast, like New York, like beatdown hardcore. Not my favorite, but dude, Madball.
We couldn't say no, but like that's not
Yeah.
really my lane either. Don't get me wrong. Like nothing, no hate. Like I'm never here to yuck anyone's yum. That's just
Yeah.
like not the lane that I occupy.
But you
But
can't say no to that show.
no, we're like, yeah, of course, absolutely. We're gonna
Wow. What the fuck?
fuck. But like that's when we play a show like that, a lot of the people in the audience are just like, "What do I do with this?" Like they hear us. We make really sonically dense decisions at with high intensity and high velocity, and that isn't always going to click, especially with. And don't get me wrong, by the way, this is not me talking shit. When you are at a show where the thing that you showed up for is someone is going to play the riff, there's going to be a mosh call, and then the riff is going to be slower after that mosh call. If that's what you're expecting, you're probably not going to pick up what All Beat Up's putting down.
Absolutely.
Well,
Because
you do that in one song.
yeah. By the time you think you know what's going on in an All Beat Up song,
Yeah.
you actually don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, and I'm not talking down on that because when I'm attending a show, if I want to go to like a more like moshy or beat down show, because I love that shit, because I'm a student of every kind of hardcore. If I'm at that show and I hear the riff, and then I hear the lead singer, and then I hear the riff but slower, that silverback gorilla is also activated inside of my heart. And I need to go fucking hit my friend in the face. So like I
100%.
love that too. So I'm not talking down on it. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that like sometimes if we're on a show where a crowd is expecting a night of mostly one thing, that's the show when we get a lot of stunned silence when we're playing and everyone's just like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But then
100%.
like other shows on a more mixed bill, or we play where we play really well is we found ourselves in this position a handful of times is as the hardcore palate cleanser on like a power violence or grindcore show.
Okay.
We found ourselves in that position, and I got a little worried at first when we started getting some of those shows, but the crowd loves it because I don't know what it is. Like we played, shout out Greg and Alquin. We played 510 Grindfest twice in a row. And it's called Grindfest, if you can imagine the kind of bands on it.
In Oakland,
On
too.
blast beats. But it was like, he was very smart in the way he arranged it, where it would be like, it's like every fourth grindcore or power battles band, he would throw a hardcore band on. And this was a crazy fest where they were 15-minute sets. He ran it like it was the military in the best way because everyone was on time. There's stage A and there's stage B. And when stage B says, okay, thank you, good night, stage A starts. And then stage B is
Wow.
flipping while stage A plays. So there was the fest started in the afternoon and it didn't end until like fucking midnight. There was no silence. The whole time.
Wild. Yeah.
It was crazy. But every time we played those shows, it went bananas. Something about the people who already like people who already like to be overwhelmed, which is like blast freaks, which I am also one of those. If you already like to be overwhelmed, you're going to like All Beat Up. And those are some of the crowds that have popped the hardest for us, where they're like, well, I don't know what to do. Let's all just start vibrating and pushing each other and freaking out. And then like a couple people are like, are proper moshing. We've had shows where it's like, that's a stage diver, that's a push pit, and those guys are doing their best moves. And it's all happening at the same show in a warehouse in Oakland or at the print shop. And when I was just like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. It's all happening right now in front of me. Like every kind of mosh pit is happening all at once. And those are the best All Beat Up shows. But we get one or the other, typically. We do. Which is fine. I get it. When I was younger, I would almost like get frustrated that I'm like, people don't get what I'm trying to do, and like, did the crowd even like it? But now I understand that, like, hey man, you're kind of doing something that's a little bit challenging to the ear, so not everyone's going to be able to like two-step, because you had a section that someone could two-step for, and it lasted about 13 seconds, and then you did something totally different. Like, they can't hang on to it because that's not what this band is. So now I no longer care. I just accept whatever happens when we play live. I'm like, hey, people are either just gonna go with the flow and do whatever they want, or they're just gonna kind of sit there and watch and soak it in. Either way, I appreciate their attention. Let's do it. You know?
I love that. Yeah.
So, yeah.
That, my friend, is called maturing.
Yes.
You know, I can totally relate to that as a creative person myself. You know, you put so much love and energy into these things, you know, and you want people to feel the exact emotions and the range of emotions that you felt creating them, you know, but then really they have a different interpretation of it, and that's totally valid and fair. And if you accept that, you'll enjoy what you do a lot more, you know.
Is what it is, man. Hopefully they pick up what we're putting down, but if not, it's all right.
Yeah.
It's all right. We all had a good time at the show. You know,
100%.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And something that happens often is it's usually at those shows when like the crowd isn't feeling it, because like we're kind of not doing the soup of the day that's being served at this show is not really what we are. So the crowd isn't quite going nuts. Almost every time that happens, what is affirming that ends up happening is usually a member of one of the bands we played with comes up to one of us and is like, I saw what you were doing there. And it's like, yeah, you would. You're in a band. Not that you have to have some high rock and roll reading level to, like, we try to be, you know, I'm not trying to look down on anybody, but like, it's just usually when that happens, I am blessed by someone usually in a band saying like, I saw what you were doing there and it was cool. I was like, all right, well, hey, someone got it.
And
Very cool.
That is usually the highest compliment, is when a peer understands what's going on, you know? Totally. So yeah, again, not kissing ass. I absolutely fucking love what you guys did on the record. And it's just like such a cool, unique collection of songs.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
You guys recorded Mercy Thirst locally at Sunsick, right?
Yes. We recorded Mercy Thirst at Sunsick Studio with Alex Jacobelli. He's the best. I also record in that studio as a recording engineer, but he's way better than me. He's a fucking genius. I mean, I'm really happy and proud of the things that I make, but I went to Alex for two reasons. One, I didn't want to wear that many hats. I wanted to focus on making the record instead of also being the engineer who's recording it. And two, because Alex is a fucking genius, and a lot of the tricks and tools that I have and use in my own recording engineering for other bands, I learned from him. So I also went with him, not just to help take off one of my hats in the studio, but because he's just the best. He's so good. He has a vocabulary for heavy or hard music that is unmatched. He knows, we both speak both languages because he's been in a lot of bands. He was in Ludax, he was in Griever, he's currently in Negative Blast. All fantastic bands.
Yeah.
And so we both speak the language of, we're a member of a band that's gigging and touring, and we're like an engineer. So we get to speak both languages to each other in the studio while like he holds the reins. And I defer to him for a lot because, as I told you, like his knowledge is undeniable. His execution is undeniable. He really is the best. So it's not just that he's in town and I'm a Ride or Die San Diego guy. It's that Alex Jacobelli truly was the best option.
Fuck yeah.
Go record your record with him. or with me if you want.
For a discount, and you'll get everything that he taught you.
Yeah, not everything, but some of the things.
Love that.
He's Vaughn's and I'm Kroger. You know what I mean?
Love that. Yep.
He's like going to Vaughn's and I'm like going to Food for Less. And sometimes you got to go to Food for Less.
I was gonna
It's
say,
great at recording your demo. That's
Yeah.
what I'm good at.
fuck yeah, I'm here for it. I love it.
But yeah, we've been working on it for a long time. We started tracking with Alex when we got back from tour with Cockring in 2 years ago. 2 years ago we started tracking. We wanted to be tour, so we went on tour with Cockring, and when we got back, we immediately started tracking the LP because the perfect time, even though we're tired from tour, we're tour tight. So let's get in the studio because we've been playing these songs every day for the last like 12 days in a row. So let's get in the studio and execute. Because some people do this and I can't really, it's tough, is when people have unreleased music that they don't play live until it's out. Obviously, I would say most people do that.
Yeah.
Most people are like, we put out a record and now we're going to play these songs for All Beat Up. We don't really know if we like all the choices we're making until we play it live a lot of times.
Interesting.
So if you've seen us live often, you've already heard the record. It just isn't on the internet. Yeah, You know what I mean? Like we had 3 splits. We did a lot of splits. We did a split with Bob Ross, local power violence band. We did a split with New Crimes. Alex Jacobelli was in that band at the time. That was just a hardcore punk band. And then we did a split with Rival Squad, which is another hardcore punk band. And what else did we do before the live record? Oh, we were going to go on tour in 2020 and then pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And so we set up a room full of live mics and we played the set we were going to tour on and put it out as a tape just because, for lack of a better thing to do. But some of the songs on the LP, most of the songs on the LP weren't on the internet yet. But if you saw us play live, you probably heard them because we're workshopping them there too. So I don't know. It's just not the way we work. We don't keep secrets.
Yeah.
You guys, we have to really, because we can monitor the crowd and B, response to the choices we're making, and B, really sit in the decisions we've made songwriting, and we take those songwriting decisions and we take them to other settings live and see how they feel in those settings. And that's what kind of helps. So if you're like a local head who goes to a lot of shows, so therefore you've probably seen All Beat Up a lot because we play a lot in San Diego because the city where we're from, and you probably have even heard a song evolve.
Yeah, that's really cool though. That's like a very iterative process where you're getting feedback from probably the audience, but also your own, the chemistry amongst yourselves, know, and then iterating on that. It sounds like.
Yeah. But yeah, so we started tracking it like 2 years ago. And then post-production took a long time because we did a lot.
Hold on, I want to pause you right there. So just because I am genuinely so curious about the recording process, having never been around it, like in a true studio setting. So before post-production, where do you start? Do you start with drums, and what's that process like?
Everyone's different, right?
Yeah.
And speaking from both sides of in the live room, which is where the band plays, or the control room, which is where the engineer sits. I've been on both sides of it, so I can tell you that every band is different.
Yeah.
Some bands, I'll tell you the way we did it. We were both in the control room, and there's a big window in the control room next to Alex, sitting in front of the computer, and all the, the classic, all the knobs and faders. So Alex is sitting by all the preamps and EQs and knobs and faders, and we DI'd in. And then there's a big window where we can see into the live room where Jeremy's playing. So we played the songs live with Jeremy, and we didn't play to a click. We halfway didn't play to a click, depending on the song. We let each song kind of tell us what was going to go on. So I DI'd guitar, and there's like an amp sim and like amp distortion that we basically DI'd guitar and fed it into Jeremy's in-ear monitors, and we DI'd bass and fed that into Jeremy's in-ear monitors. But in the live room, the only thing was the drum kit, and that included like a kick in mic, a kick out mic to get like beater and like fullness, 2 snare mics, overheads. There was multiple room mic setups where you can get a lot of ambiance from the drums, which is where you get a lot of space. So there's a lot of microphones in that room, but just Jeremy's in the room. But it's like we're playing together because there's a big ass window and we're facing each other, just like playing, rocking out, doing our thing. Sans vocals, obviously, which is fun. I did vocals on my own later. So we would have certain sections where we knew the tempo was going to come into the song, and we know how we like to do it, but we would set that tempo. So we would have a click in our ears that would only click us into the song, but would not continue clicking because we have been playing together for so long. We play really intuitively in All Beat Up. We, especially because a lot of the part of the foundation of our songwriting is our live shows. That's part of why we play live so much. Is because it's like tied to the way we create, not just because it's a really fucking fun thing to do. So we set the temp. It's almost like setting a tempo intention because we would only click in, but we would not click throughout. So we would find the right tempo, BPM. So we would hear like duck, 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 duck. But and then we would get into it. But then after that, there's going to be some pull and some push and some swell because we're playing together now. But we set that tempo intention to get into the song. But then after that, we were just playing the song. So we did a lot of takes of that. And that's essentially just drums. Though we keep the DI recordings as reference tracks, as scratches, they're called. Or at least we call them. So we keep the DI recordings of bass and guitar as scratch tracks. And then we have all the drums. And then from there, we made some decisions. We have to make editing decisions before we go into actually tracking guitar and bass. Where Alex in the band, we kind of do it as we go. We'll do a song and we'll do like 3 or 4 takes of it, and we'll be like, "Yep, this was all like this whole take was it, like awesome." But then there was another song where it's like, we're really, really good up until we do this like blast beat thing. So let's see if we can take like the first half of take 2 and the second half of take 5. And Alex will do his best to blend them. And if we can do it in a way that feels seamless, we'll keep it. If we can't do it in a way that feels seamless, it's like, hey, we got to get in there and like give one more. So like we'll piece songs together where we can, where we can't, we won't. Ideally, we keep entire takes. But that's not always the case of what happens. Sometimes they put together in a clever and creative way. But once we're set on the editing structure of the songs that are recorded, then we do guitar and bass. I did a lot of guitar tracks. Okay. I did a lot. I don't remember exactly how many. There's obviously your like bass line. I mean, I don't do any leads. We make a joke that this whole band is the rhythm cycle.
I mean, you're singing and playing guitar in a 3-piece band, so.
And like something like a lead or like a lick or like a solo, like that's not really our lane. That's not like that's not part of our brand. You know what I mean? So like, I don't really need to. But so there's like the foundational left and right. So I would do 1 take for the left ear, 1 take for the right ear, essentially. And I believe I recorded it on, it was a 5150 on one side and a JMP on the other, I believe. Best of both worlds, Marshall and PV. Let's go. I play a 5150 live. Okay. It's a 5150 signature series.
So like, is that the original 5150? Because there's 5152 also, right? Like
it's a whole thing. Well, because Eddie Van Halen, there's like the 5150 block letter, the 5150 signature, and then there's the 6505 and the 6505 plus, and then there's the Fender 5150s. When Eddie Van Halen, pardon my burp, when Eddie Van Halen left PV for Fender.
Yeah.
So now there's Fender. So my friend Matt, who plays in Gene Stealer, very good grindcore band in town, he plays a Fender 5150. Okay. What's cool about the Fender 5150s is they have what is it called? Because 5150s typically tape 606 tubes, but then what is it, EL84? I'm forgetting now because I'm PV pilled. I'm a PV man. For bass, D plays a PV Mark 8. Before I was playing my 5150, I played a 120 watt PV Rockmaster. So I'm a 606 man. I'm a PV man. And not that I don't love a JCM 800 or a JMP. I think it's the EL54, EL84. A Marshall head will correct me on what kind of tube, but it's basically it's a Fender 5150 54. Okay. And if that's the wrong number, sorry Marshall heads, let me know. But basically, the tubes that drive a Marshall head are put into a 5150 by Fender. So it's almost like a
Damn.
Marshall PV
Hybrid.
hybrid love child.
Yeah.
Which is very cool. But yeah, so we've got Marshall 50. I also played into, I think it was an Ames, which is like a weird old combo amp that had 410s that Alex has in the studio. And I played into a Trainer. Trainer is a very interesting amp company. They're Canadian. They
Okay.
make very cool combo amps. And I played into a Trainer as well.
yeah.
In the tones range from like an HM2 Power Violence Magruder grind style thing to like the Tube Screamer into a Marshall, which is like, I mean, Tube Screamer into a Marshall. That's hardcore, baby.
Yeah.
So the tones, I used a clone of something that's called the Stone Gray Distortion. I don't remember the brand, but it's a very cool distortion pedal.
And this is all on an SG.
No, actually, the SG that, well, no, some of them are. Some
Okay.
of them were on an SG. Some of them were also on a Les Paul.
Okay.
It's called the Seymour Les Paul that I have. I used to have it in my room. No, I don't have it anymore. I'll show you. It's a Japanese Les Paul. It was made in 1979. It's classic blues lawyer looking guitar because it's like a yellow sunburst into red. It's
Yeah.
like the real dad rock bluesy. Like it's the all the hardware is gold and the pick guard is cream.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was already picturing. Yeah.
Super sick guitar.
Yeah.
Not very punk looking at all. But it's a guitar that I have and I love it. It was a gift, actually. There was a kooky old lady who my parents knew, and she showed up and she gave my family a bunch of instruments. She gave
Wow.
us that electric guitar, an acoustic guitar. She gave us a banjo and a
Damn.
mandolin. Yeah.
That's a come up.
I know. I was really young. I was like a child at the time. I
Wild.
don't remember why she gave it to us. I don't even remember the nature of my parents' relationship to this lady. But that guitar I've had for because I got my SG when I was 15 and saved up a lot of money, and my dad helped me with it too. It was cool. Quick sidebar: my Gibson SG that I've been playing for many years now. I pinched up my pennies, and my dad said he would help me buy my first electric guitar when I was a kid. And we were kind of looking at a lot of Squires. We were looking at a lot of, and we were looking on the used market. And then we went into the Guitar Center in La Mesa. And at the time, it's laid out. The Guitar Center also, the great equalizer. You could be in your first band, you could be a mid-level touring band, or you could be on a tour bus playing huge venues.
Yeah.
Guitar Center comes for everyone. Every one of those musicians has been in a Guitar Center, bummed the fuck out.
Yeah.
At every level of music, you find yourself in a Guitar Center trying to find an employee.
Yep.
But anyway, in the La Mesa Guitar Center, on the used wall was that red SG, and we were like, what? And it's like, used price? And the guy was like, yeah, the story he was telling is like some guy bought it but didn't really like it. It didn't seem like he knew what he was doing, and he returned it, and that technically does make it used. So now it's like at the used price. So I was able to get a basically brand new for the time Gibson SG, which I had no budget for. Me and my dad didn't have the budget. We were just regular people, and part of that was like, you're a kid and you're saving up your money, and I'm going to help you out a little bit, but like this is part of that, raising the lessons, dad shit. So I had no business getting that guitar, and then I was able to get that guitar. So
Fuck yeah.
But that Les Paul that I recorded part of the LP on is the only guitar that's been in my life longer than that SG.
So the Les Paul came first.
Les Paul came first.
Okay.
The blues rock, the blues lawyer Les Paul. It's a great guitar though. It just doesn't look. It looks cool for what it is. I was in a stoner metal band some time ago. I played that guitar in that band. Fit right in.
I was gonna say that makes total sense. Yeah.
That guitar's a walking bong. Like,
Yeah.
rocks, man. Play a Black Sabbath riff on that thing, and you feel great.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Which is funny because Tony Iommi plays a red SG like I do.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna
that's
say,
really
wait a
funny.
second. Yeah.
I know. But you know what I mean. I'm conjuring a vibe here. And they both have hot rodded P90s in them. In the how in the weeds do you want to get? Because you can get super in the weeds.
I mean, I think P90s are the pickups, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're like Hot Rod and P90. They're both GFS pickups, which is a really kind of low end pickup manufacturer, but I actually fuck with them really hard because they give you a really good product for how affordable it is. A really
Okay.
good product, and I'm not a rich guy,
Yeah.
so I gotta pinch my pennies where I can. So in my SG, I have a GFS Mean 90, which is a more traditional P90 sound. It's just hot rod. It's super high output. And then in my Les Paul, I have a GFS Dream 90, which actually it's another. They're both P90s that are designed to fit. Some people call them P100s or like HP90s. They're P90s that are designed to fit in a humbucker slot.
Okay.
So P90s are typically a lot wider. So it's a single coil, which I love that jangly high energy. I love how much feedback it gives because, like, the humbucker, it bucks the hum. It gets rid of that 60 cycle hum and takes care of a lot of your feedback. I don't like that. I like to be writing. I like it to be apparent that there's a lot of electricity flowing through this signal.
Yeah.
So I love a single coil, specifically a P90. It's like scrangly and intense. And when you put a lot of high gain onto a P90, something really cool happens. And it feels like you're riding a bolt of lightning. It's fucking awesome. So I have a GFS Mean 90 in my SG and a Dream 90 in my Les Paul. And the Dream 90, the makeup of it is actually, it's more like a super fat Fender style single pickup, like from, say, the digital Telecaster. It's the sound is more akin to that. The P90 in my SG is sharper. Like the distortion is like tax, whereas the P90 in my Les Paul, my Seymour Les Paul, it's a Japanese guitar, like lawsuit era before Seymour got bought out by Ibanez.
Okay.
And it can now I can still make it attack. I can still make it sound like bees, but it has a little bit more low mid, so you can get multi-tones out of it. You can get warmth out of it, and so those two things combined become the totality of the Albee tone.
Okay. And so even you talking about like getting it to sound like bees or sound like tax, I feel like SGs are historically kind of known for having some of that crunchy kind of like electricity that you're talking about, right? Yeah. Because I can think of a lot of like youth crew type hardcore bands who are playing more like standard tuning and like kind of have that high-end crunchy tone to them, and I can think of them playing SGs.
Oh, and it rocks. It's great. I mean, SG is a very versatile guitar.
Yeah.
And that's what I typically do live, is that, because I like to hit you in the face with it. But in the studio, I get to like make a layer cake of tones.
Yeah.
And there are certain parts where we push and pull. You can hear, if you listen with an active ear, I hope at least. I hope it feels seamless, but you can kind of hear different tones peek in and out.
On like any given track, how many guitar tracks are there?
Depends. On the last track, the Wound, there's a lot.
Okay.
And some of the more straightforward tracks, there's less. It's usually when there's a big dynamic change, we typically made some kind of tonal change. I wouldn't say we made a new tone decision every time. It's almost like we had a handful of tone choices we already made, and then we kind of we're like, ooh, like bring that one down and that one up.
That's cool. Yeah.
Let those things kind of swell here, and then we'll kind of swell it back. It's not like a new, we didn't go, crazy prog with it. It's not like there's like 3 new guitar. There's still kind of like a foundational of like one tone's a little sharper, one tone's a little warmer. And then there's a couple times where like on a couple breakdowns, I like did an overlay of something that we felt was missing. And then on that last song, The Wound, there's a lot happening. And that's the song that has the most guitar tracks and also a noise track and a synth track and bass. And there's a lot happening there.
But it sounds like you chose your palette ahead of time, and then each song you kind of, or you chose your ingredients ahead of time, and then depending on the song, you chose which individual ingredients you were going to use.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Okay.
Or some sprinkling. We did a whole thing where we tracked everything. I did vocals on my own because I can record those in my practice space.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to take Alex's. The vocals is a lot more simple. I have like kind of the same gear that Alex has. I just got like a Shure SM7B, or even I also used a 58 too, which is just the classic vocal mic. And which is fine though, because we distort the shit out of my vocals anyway. So like I can just like get him a decent vocal take. Because when we're in the studio, we want to use the studio's equipment, and I want to pick Alex's brain so we can put our heads together and make like really intentional decisions. Whereas recording vocals, it can be finicky. If I'm having a tough vocal day, I could waste a bunch of time in the studio on a day where I know I'm not going to get a take I like. So I'd rather do that on my personal time.
Yeah. I mean, vocals are like, I think that's something people neglect. Like I have so much admiration for vocalists of any level, because like it totally depends on your body and your psyche, and like
how much water you've drinking today? How much water you've had to drink in the last couple days?
Yeah. And I believe it. And it's like, if you slip up on your vocals and you haven't sang for a while, from what I understand, there's a decent chance it's going to take you weeks to get back to where you were.
Yeah. You got to get warm and kind of stay warm. My vocals sound the best when I'm on like tour day 3.
Yeah.
Did the set 3 nights in a row, and then it's like seasoned like a cast iron pan.
Love that. Would you consider your vocals a scream or a yell?
Right in the middle.
Yeah, I feel like
the answer is yes.
Yeah. Straight up. It very much is. Like, it teeters on that distortion of like a yell, or I'm sorry, of a scream, but it still has just kind of a punk yell to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really shoot the middle there, and I'm happy to shoot that's where I kind of want to live, because it does. I would say, because we already kind of went over it. Like, Albino is trying to kind of do a lot of things, but we do still fall mostly under. We're not just a hardcore band; we're a hardcore punk band, and I think that's what I loved about when Jose said "Cult Leader Trash Talk." I'm like, that's like brutal, intense, kind of technical hardcore, and just like hardcore punk rock. And I'm like, yeah. We're in the Venn diagram. We're between them. Yes. So like hardcore punk. And that's that yell. That's that shout. Instead of like scream, when you're like, I do my highs and my lows. I'm like, no, it's like just shouting like an unhinged person. But also leaning to that other area too.
Yeah. Because there's, like I said, there's some distortion behind it. It's not just, if I yell right now at the top of my voice, there may not be distortion. But if I scream, there's going to be some distortion, but yeah, I feel like you have a nice balance of that. That actually brings up a great, topic I wanted to discuss. Is hardcore, I think, is thriving right now in a lot of ways, which makes sense given the political state of most of the world, but there's so many different segments of hardcore, and so you're operating very much what I would consider hardcore punk, like just the scene you're in, the shows you're booking, the music you're playing. And then there's, I think what's really popular right now is a lot more like beat down moshy stuff.
Capital H hardcore.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Do you have any thoughts on like why that is, or, any insight on like to the ebbs and flows of all the different hardcore subgenres?
I don't know. Capital H hardcore is where the money is right now. That's okay. I'm not hating on anybody. I think that it's not just politically where we're standing, but also like in the post-pandemic. Not that people still get COVID every fucking day. But in the post-pandemic, how could you possibly think of a better way to open that shaken up soda can? Then like hardcore is the perfect vehicle for the sensation of get me out of here. Like, and it was like 2021, 2022, mostly 2021. People are the vaccines widespread and like things are happening. And I experienced it. All my friends in every major city experienced it, which is like every show we threw in 2021 was the craziest show we've ever thrown in our life. Yeah. And every show in 2021 like that. And the shows, thankfully, are still really good. But like that was a thing happening. That was the champagne cork shooting across the room, and the perfect distillation of the sensation of like wanting to run around and get all this tension out of your body and out of your mind. Hardcore sounds the way that feels. So of course it blew up in 2020. It was the perfect like outlet. It was the perfect it invoked the right feelings. The way that so many people were feeling was perfectly invoked by this like weird niche genre of music that you and I like, and it blew the fuck up. And that's pretty cool, man. I don't know. I'm riding the wave while I can, you know. But yeah, the lane I occupy is a little bit more grimy. There's like a layer of schmutz on top of it, and that like I'm in the for the shows that I play and also like the shows that I book through Human Future is more hardcore punk. It's a little bit and like more power violence too, which is a little bit more grimy, a little bit more dirty. And I like it that way actually. Not that I would say no to playing like huge fucking venues in front of hundreds of people, but I really not just because it's the position that I find myself in, but because I really do feel this way. My favorite shows to go to when I was growing up and I like wasn't in bands that were really doing it, you know, because I've always been playing. But like when I was growing up, not really as a kid, not really in bands that are really doing the damn thing. I would see huge punk and hardcore shows at the huge venues, and those shows are of course iconic and super rad. And then I would see DIY shows of like DIY hardcore bands and DIY punk bands at like what we'll call like the mid-tier touring circuit, you could say. And those were my favorite shows to attend because it's like you maybe max 100 other people are crammed into this little fucking thing that's not even supposed to be a venue. And the energies, you can feel the energy between people. It's like static shock level of intensity and reality. And that sensation, that electric energy that's like undeniable in what I would call like the small to mid-sized room that is packed is so special. It's so cool. And those were my favorite shows to attend growing up. And now that's kind of where I find myself. You know, we did play at Brick opening for Madball, which was insane.
Yeah.
That's a really big room, but like 99 times out of 100, no disrespect to them at all. We've played other shows there. I would fear to play at the print shop, and we've had a lot of people at the print shop. But the room itself, the print shop like spills out into its own outside area. It's really cool the way it works, and the doors are always open at the print shop, so you don't have to be inside to hear the music because maybe 50 people can fit in the print shop. But then it's got these big double doors that open up into like there's like a cul-de-sac of businesses like in warehouses that are closed. It's not quite a parking lot. It's like in just a weird area. So then it's like everyone's like super high density inside the print shop. And then the big double doors are open and they spill out into this outside area, but where everyone can still hear the bands because the double doors are open. And we've had like a couple hundred people there before, which is where we were like, I'm getting nervous. There's a lot of people there. But for the 50 people brave enough to get up to the front, that sensation is everything. And so, yeah, I don't exist in the most profitable lane of hardcore right now. But I don't care because these are the rooms I want to play in. This is the place that I want to be. And again, nothing wrong with capital H hardcore. I love going to a lot of those shows, and I love a lot of those bands. I love basically anything related to punk and hardcore. I pretty much like it. I just am very fortunate to find myself consistently doing my favorite kind of thing, which is playing in a tight room that's very full.
Yeah.
A tight room that's very full is the best, and I get to do it a lot. And awesome. And who knows? Maybe thanks to your kind listeners, I'll be just gonna hit it big time. And
I hope so. Yeah.
Shoot the moon, and then I'll find myself playing 400 cap rooms, and that'll be a new experience. Who knows? But probably not though.
there is something to be said though about those small shows because here in Phoenix we have several venues, but the Nile is like the primary one, and they have. The Nile Theater is upstairs. It's 800 cap, so pretty massive shows, at least in terms of hardcore and heavy music. Underground, I think, is like a 250 cap. And I find myself loving shows upstairs, don't get me wrong, but the shows that I leave feeling most energized are usually the underground shows where you have that tension, like you said, where it's like, all of us are packed in here like sardines and we all have some sort of energy that we're like it's pulsating through all of us, and it feels like the room's gonna explode.
Why do you think the biggest bands in the world like play Secret Set nowhere? Because
Yeah.
they miss it. Because they miss it. They'll
Yep.
be like, "Oh, did you hear about like so and so Secret Set and this tiny DIY?" And everyone's like, "Oh my god, they did that because they want that."
Yeah.
And I get to do it all the time.
Yeah.
Which is, what a very Buddhist way of me to just accept the place that I'm in. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But at the same time, I back it. I do like the level at which my band is successful. However the fuck you want to measure that, I'm really happy with it. I
Yeah.
get to play my favorite kind of show pretty much all the time. So who knows? Maybe there's more on the horizon for me. But even if I keep doing this for a handful of years, I'm really happy. So
Yeah. I mean, on the note of Buddhism, what's the saying? Chop wood, carry water.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, and that's what you guys are doing. You're repeating the process, you know, and
yeah.
you're savoring that, and it's so cool to see. And the reason I asked you that question about like, you know, any insight you had is exactly kind of what you're touching on of like, it's just so cool to see hardcore thriving on
Yeah.
all levels right now. There's the big shows, there's the bands that are breaking through, like Turnstile toured with fucking Blink 182.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And then, just like I said earlier, Turnstile also played the Shade for,
Yeah.
way less people than Petco Park.
Exactly. You know, and so and then to see what you guys are doing, the DIY scene, you know, I interviewed Jen down in Tucson, like what she's doing down there. Like there's just so many, as someone who was around it from a young age, it is just like so fucking exciting to see.
Everyone's eating well on every level.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about money. I'm talking about like the food for your fucking soul.
Yeah.
Everyone is eating well at every level. The
Yeah.
big shows are crazy iconic and super cool. Cause like I saw, I saw when AFI did Sing the Sorrow for the last time. Huge show, incredible. And I saw like a cool band from Bakersfield called Gold. They fucking rock. Look them up. Gold from Bakersfield.
Just gold, like a gold chain.
Gold. On their Instagram, it's solid fucking gold. And they're a hardcore
Okay.
band from Bakersfield.
Love that. Fuck
Kind
yeah.
of like in the hardcore punk lane. They rock. And I saw them in a DIY in San Diego that could hold maybe 20 people. And like both of those shows were so awesome to me. Both of those shows were so cool to me that I got to scream along with a couple hundred other people. I got to yell, scream AFI songs. And I got to be in a room with 20 people just watching this new up and coming band from fucking Bakersfield just rip it in my town. Everybody's eating
Yeah.
well. It's
100%.
awesome.
Yeah, and I think
Really cool.
I think you really hit on it. I've talked about it before where like I think okay, just to use presidential terms, you know, for to condense this timeline. Trump's first term, SoundCloud rap got huge because we entered this phase of like suddenly there were like no rules in like
Right.
a really shitty way. And then, you know, we have 2020, the whole pandemic happens and stuff. You know, we're all cooped up and we all also realize how shitty this system we're put into is. And it's exactly what you said. It's like a shaken up soda can. And that has also been my theory of like SoundCloud rap and all that shit died out. Hip hop is kind of on a low right now. I totally think hardcore in a lot of ways, though still way smaller. I think in terms of youth culture, I think a lot of younger kids have found hardcore for that exact reason of like, oh, I can go here and I can lose my fucking mind for 4 hours, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm not obviously you would know more about the hip hop world than I do for sure, but I can definitely tell you that there's a reason why hardcore is so big right now.
Yeah.
It's because it sounds the way people feel.
Yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, I I can totally I think the reason I even feel the way I do right now in this timeline we're living in is because of the things I learned from hardcore.
Big time.
You know, and it's been so refreshing to be 32 years old and still go back to these values and morals that this genre instilled in me and be like, "Oh, this shit is still true and like more true than ever before." You know.
Yeah. That was I don't remember where I saw it. I think someone shared some fucking stupid meme with me where it was like a 13-year-old who was like, the dead Kennedys are right about everything. And then there's like a 25-year-old who's like, the world is a lot more complicated than that. And then it shows a 30-year-old and it's like, turns out the dead Kennedys were right about everything.
100%. Yep.
Well, yeah, sorry about it. It is what it is.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. I feel like it's come full circle for people our age, you know.
Yeah.
Speaking of people our age and speaking of AFI, why is AFI so polarizing in the hardcore community?
It's because they're a beast of change, is why. It's because they refused to be just one thing. They insisted on being multiple. And that's their right, man. I was a punk rock elitist when I was a kid. You know, I already told you I'm 32 now. And that's that thing when you're young and dumb. And you're like, the stuff I like is cool. And the things other people like, because it's not the thing I like, is dumb. And it makes you a poser. I've let go of a lot of that. It still comes up sometimes and I do my best to be like, hey, stop it. People can like stuff. Shut up. It's whatever, you know. But because there's a lot of different kinds of AFI fans. My AFI pocket is Black Sails, All Hollows, Art of Drowning, Sing the Sorrow.
Oh,
so, yeah. 99, 99, 2000, 2003. That's my pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Anything before Black Sails, like Answer That, very proud of you. A little corny for me. Anything after Sing the Sorrow, also not for me. But because AFI, and when I was younger, I was like, when December Underground came out, it crushed me. It flattened me like a tick.
As it did many people.
And because we were waiting. We were all like, oh, the music video is going to come out, and the new AFI record's going to be so good. And it came off of just like that whole pocket. The Sales, Hollows, you know, Art of Drowning, Sing Sorrow. Holy shit, what a collection of music. That could have been their whole career, and they would still be iconic to this day. Just those 4 releases with 3 records and an EP. Insanity. But AFI's Beast of Change. And
yeah.
I was so bummed. And in my young, immature ways, it pissed off at Davey Hammock and Jade for what they did to my precious AFI as if it belonged to me. And it didn't. It belonged to them. Now that I'm older, I understand that it's like, hey, especially that I'm in a band, not that my band's like AFI, because they're on another tip, but I'll beat up if you go far enough back. We don't sound like we do now. My band, my main band that I'm in right now, All Beat Up, is also a beast of change. We're always trying to push ourselves to do new and interesting things. And in that same way, that's kind of how AFI operated. And you'd be like, oh, you know what? I respect the fact that instead of your ideas becoming stagnant, you took risks while chasing your passions and the things that inspire you. And while I got off the bus a couple records ago, the fact that you're still passionately making good music is clear because you got new fans. Everything from like punks, people into hardcore, goths, like this whole spectrum of people all has a different AFI pocket that they like.
Very true.
I think that's what AFI, for like alternative people, AFI has a chokehold on a lot of us because there is, for whatever kind of alternative, not whatever, because there's an infinite number of ways to identify in subcultures to turn into a part of your identity. There's as many as there are grains of sand. But for a lot, they touched a lot of them. For like, specifically like young West Coast Americans, I'll say at least, they touched a lot of them from like punks, hardcore people, goths. That's a lot of that West Coast, you know, rocker culture. It encompasses a lot of that. And they clearly made good music, even if it's after I got off the bus. They kept making good enough music to the point where like there are people who have a totally opposite opinion of AFI to me, where they're like, December Underground is where it really started for me. And then they like keep talking about AFI. And they're like, yeah, I heard when they used to be like punk. Isn't that crazy? Like, and that's a totally different experience. It's the same band.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same guys. But yeah, the reason they're polarizing is because they aren't afraid to do something new. Ceremony did that too. A lot of bands do that, and I think I can respectfully, now that I'm older and wiser, I can be more appreciative of the fact that, like, dang, you guys made 3 records in an EP that really affected me. And then you made a bunch of stuff that really affected other people that's not for me. But not everyone does that. Not everyone thinks in those terms. And I think that's why some people get uppity about AFI. And
Absolutely.
Everyone's entitled to their fucking opinion. As long as you're not too dickish about it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Because, I think I'm in a similar timeline as you, is like, Sing the Sorrow was the first album I kind of discovered, not necessarily on my own. Like, I'd seen early AFI stuff floating around between my 2 brothers, but then Sing the Sorrow hits the mainstream, you know? Mm-hmm. So then I see Silver and Cold and Leaving Song start playing on MTV2 and stuff, and I was like, oh, wait, that's that band that my brothers are into. I got Sing the Sorrow, and then my brother saw that and then started taking me to shows, you know? And that was really the start of it. But yeah, then I went backwards all the way to, I really like Very Proud of You, but Black Sails is obviously the one, right? You know, the first time I heard that speed with the punk aspect of it, but also the melody, I was like, my God, like, what is this band? You know? Yeah. And I think back to the cover set that you did back in, right before pre-pandemic,
2019, Halloween 2019.
That's right. It was Halloween. Yeah.
We did an AFI cover set, and it was one of the best shows I have ever played.
It was amazing. And I remember talking to Matt that night. I think Matt and Rose about, like, AFI.
Matt's a huge AFI head too, and Matt and Sabe. Sabe was the other guitarist.
That's right. Yep.
He was in Bayonet. He was also in a handful of bands. He's a good dude. I love him. He was for the 2019 AFI cover set. He was the other guitarist, and him and Matt are both like AFI like completists. They're like, I like everything they've ever done. I'm like, even the more modern, like absolutely every single note, and like that's crazy, but like good for them.
Yeah, there's really a wide spectrum because I do love a lot of the newer stuff. It's not the first stuff I gravitate towards, but like. I think for me, like, I don't know, I was just so having a brother.
I kick you off on the Matt being a completist, but you were talking to Matt and Rose.
Oh yeah, just Matt was saying like AFI will really bring the people out of the woodworks in terms of like, because that show went off, you know, like full sing-alongs and everything, and it was like you would have thought you were seeing AFI because everyone knew the fucking words, and like. That memory just always sticks with me as like, man, AFI really does have a grip on people, you know?
Yeah. Because we just thought it would be fun. Like, obviously, the Halloween cover show tradition in punk and hardcore is really fun.
Yeah.
And we just thought it would be really fun to be like, yeah, look, let's do... That night, I played in 2 of the bands. I did Discharge. I played bass on the Discharge cover band. Then I played guitar in AFI. Then we had some people do Devo. And then we had one other group do Iggy and the Stooges.
Yeah, I think Blaine was Iggy, right?
Yeah, Blaine was Iggy.
Yeah.
And it was just, we just thought it would be fun. Like, it would just be like a cool show. We'll make a little bit of money. That'll mostly pay for our drinks. And we'll just like play songs that we love. But really, it was AFI. When we started playing AFI, I was like, wow, there's a lot of people here. And here they come! Like, like, we were like, oh, they are coming on stage.
That's what I'm saying. God. There were pile-ups. Awesome. Yeah, there were pile-ups. And what was that? Was that Space Bar?
It was in Space Bar, yeah.
Yeah.
And but that's AFI. Like you and Matt were talking about, like AFI does that to people.
Yeah, 100%.
They're undeniable. They're undeniable. Obviously, you know, they made some... I got off the train at a certain point, but I respect the fucking shit out of them. They're undeniably good at basically everything they do, even if that thing that they're doing isn't your favorite kind of thing. I trust that they're doing it well
100%.
because, like, how could they not? You know, they're this cultural touchstone. They're so good.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to put it. Is yeah, they're a cultural touchstone. What was it like learning Jade's guitar parts? Because you learned a lot of the Black Sail stuff, and that's like really fast, like picking and stuff.
It was really hard, and I'm
Yeah,
like not, you know, I'm not a virtuoso, but like
but you are
I got
very
riffs.
yeah. I was gonna say you are very proficient in your given style.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. I'm not new. By the time I was doing that AFI cover set, I would not say that I'm new. Like I know how to play punk and hardcore guitar well.
yeah,
And I'm comfortable saying that because it's a craft I had been doing for a long time. And Jade is a player. That's probably my two. It's Jade from AFI, Kurt Ballou,
dude. Oh my
Courage,
god. Yeah,
and
the guy from Pile.
I was gonna. Well, Rick from Pile, he's on another level. I would even say like Danny Marshall, more modern from Baptist before
Hmm.
Baptist broke up.
Yeah,
Um, Growing up, the Jade and Kurt, that is like who I like. If you could take those two guitarists and put them in a stew,
yeah,
that's the way I try to sound. And then more modernly, when I heard Baptists before they were done, I really loved the way he riffed, and I took a lot of pages out of his book as well, of just like trying to put this person's riffs in my hands just so I can learn something from them. But yes, Jade, putting Jade's riffs in my hands, woo! I mean, fast, interesting chord structures, a lot of speed picking, a lot of you're moving all over the neck. He loves doing an octave run as like basically in place of doing like a bitchin' rock and roll guitar lick. He'll just do a really fast octave run, and the pick slides. Come on, is so good. It juices you up. It's the way to play punk. It's like not a lot of punk guitarists play flashy guitar. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like flashy guitar is saved for like rockers or metalheads. Jade showed you that punk guitar and like hardcore guitar too, because it was like, especially that early to mid career AFI is like punk hardcore combo. You know, kind of a little more punk earlier, more hardcore in the mid section. But that kind of a guitarist, like a hardcore guitarist or a punk rock guitarist, can be flashy while still being true to the genre.
yeah.
And that's what Jay did well. Because it's flashy. It's showboaty. But like
100%. Yeah,
in an awesome way. In a way that makes you feel a little bit like a guitar hero. You know what I mean? Even though like that's not the kind of music you're playing. You're not playing some, you know, Ted Nugent riff and fuck that music. That guy's a piece of shit. But you know what I mean? You're not playing you're playing punk, but you're like kind of get to have a rock star moment if you're playing his riffs, and that is cool as hell.
yeah. Absolutely.
Confident. He was confidently.
Yeah, 100%. He's very much like he is. Look, everyone who plays music is a musician. Don't get me wrong, but like he is a musician who knows what he's doing and is pulling from all these different influences to make something completely original, and that is true innovation. You know. Yeah. Even you. Okay, you mentioned the octave run. I'm thinking of the second track on Black Sails after the intro. I feel like there's like a fast like kind of going up the fretboard. I guess what I'm asking is like, what's an example of like an octave run?
Um,
Is it just literally just going up the fretboard, hitting the different
yeah.
octaves?
And the
Yes.
anyone who knows AFI is now singing along in their head.
Yeah.
Um,
That literally, and that's what I was thinking in my head is like those.
yeah.
He's going up the fretboard. You can hear the same progression throughout it, and then there's like a release at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
And an octave is basically because it's just the two octave notes from the power chord.
Yeah.
Only.
Yeah.
And he'll just rip on those on like a run and then hit the riff, hit the chords, and it's like it's tight.
Yeah.
It's tight.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all over. They're all over All Hallows EP. He slides in like little octave runs fucking sick, super sick. All of that EP is perfect. It's like 10 minutes, I think, and it's so good. I could listen to it 5 times in a row. It's so it's so
Yep.
good.
Yeah. No, and to have the Halloween cover on there too is just fucking epic.
Come on now. As the
Yeah.
proud owner of 2 of the worst Misfits tattoos you'll ever see.
Wait, you have 2?
I have 2, yeah.
Well, at least you don't have
Uh,
Jeremy's situation.
Was it the Die My Darling
Okay.
glass
Yeah.
of wine? It's
Love
like
that.
that one's subtle. And then I have like a stick and poke Crimson Gust on my ankle.
Okay. Love that.
Stupid. I love it.
At least you.
Misfits tattoos and Black Flag bars is like, oh yeah, you were 19.
Yep. That's it. That's your hall pass, or not your hall pass. That's like your just gateway into being a
Yeah.
punk.
Yeah, oh, big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
At least you're not like Jeremy though. The fucking metal up your ass Metallica tattoo without
Oh
any
yeah,
clue.
I think it's cool, man.
Yeah.
I think it's tight. I think it's
Just,
tight.
it is just so funny to me to think of Jeremy sitting there getting fucking stabbed, and
Yeah.
then having no clue he's getting a Metallica tattoo the whole time.
Yeah, he
Like,
didn't understand the reference at first.
Yeah.
And he was just like, what? Oh my God. He's like, well, what are you going to do? It's
Yeah.
a cool thought to me. Man.
I mean, dude, Metallica is like ubiquitous with just heavy music and rock music. So it's like, are you a Metallica fan?
I am. I like Ride the Lightning is
Yeah.
like, that's the sweetest spot for me. But I didn't like dig in, there's like certain tracks and then like certain areas that I like, but like, I'm not going to pretend to be like a super Metallica head because that would be dishonest. There's certain tracks that I really fuck with. And then I like to laugh at a lot of the jokes too, because like they have such a storied career and so much of it has been on camera
Yep.
that they're a wellspring of hilarious videos to watch.
Yeah.
But I won't, that's not to, you don't gotta, like they need to hear it from me. They're obviously iconic and very important to everything that I do, even though they're not even like technically punk or hardcore. Like they paved the way for a lot of shit that I love. Not that I felt like I needed to say that. It's like, oh yeah, and Lars is gonna listen to this podcast and think that I'm a dickhead. Like, it doesn't. It's
Lars probably thinks you're a dickhead regardless. So,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. That's what it seems like.
Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. And just to bring it full circle, I want to touch on one last thing. That is, what did you write on the back of Mercy Thirst about San Diego? San Diego on top?
Oh no, hey, I thanked basically everyone in town. We thanked everyone in town, basically.
Yeah.
And I wrote, every band from San Diego is better than your favorite band.
Fucking love it.
We're putting that in my the record label that I run, Human Future. We're putting on the back of the next Axe Collector 7-inch. Basically,
Okay.
any San Diego band who's down to put that on the back of their release, we're doing it.
Fucking love
and it's
it.
just a way for us to pump up our shit. I ride for San Diego. Obviously, some people are like, "Do you mean that literally?" Someone asked me that, and I was just like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I mean that non-ironically. Every band from San Diego is better than your favorite band. But like, we have so many good bands. We have so many. Let me. If you like leather jackets and playing fast, you need to listen to like Therapy, Agonista, Sangre, Rival Squad, Zaniac. If you are a mosher, you need to listen to Mongrel, Hereditary. If you're a blast beat freak, you need to listen to Gene Stealer, Influencer, Madrugado, DOE, Axe Collector. That's not fair. I'm in that band. Angel Guts. If you are straight edge, you need to listen to Bayonet. You need to listen to Tourist and Human Resources. If you like rock and roll riffs, you need to listen to Negative Blast and Intercom. If, there's more I could mention. There's so many good bands from San Diego, and they're all incredible. And so many of the bands I mentioned are like not just some local band. They're putting out records. They're going on tour. Oh, if you like post-punk, you need to listen to Passengers. If you like where post-punk meets punk and hardcore, like post-punk emphasis on the punk, you need to listen to Intermission's new record. Intermission's new record is so good. There's so many there's so many bands I haven't even mentioned.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, San Diego on top. Every band from San Diego is better than your favorite band. You heard it here first.
Absolutely. I fucking love it. I'm here for it. Well, Brian, where can people find you and All Beat Up? What are the handles?
All Beat Up is at All Beat Up with underscores, so like all_beat_up. You can find me. You don't need to find me. My Instagram is just me talking about the Padres and posting pictures of my dog. So
True.
like you won't need to find me unless you want me to record your demo. Then you could reach out to Not Very Punk Rock on Instagram. Human Future Records. It's at Human Future Records. It's the label me and my friend Mikey run. It's a lot of San Diego shit. You know, we're not the biggest fish in the ocean, but we're doing our part to lift up San Diego bands that we could help them with, because the label doesn't just put out the physical merchandise. The label helps with a lot of stuff, so we'll do whatever we can. If you're a Human Future band, we're gonna book you on local shows. If you need help with a tour connect somewhere, I've been on a lot of places. We're gonna do our best and hook you up with people so we can help your tours, whatever. We love Human Future Records. Is it's a record label second. And before it's a record label, it is an exercise in loving the city that we're from and the musicians in it. So yeah, I'll be the Human Future Records. Me, don't worry about me. Just watch the Padres and be bummed with me together. We can be sad together.
Truly.
Also shout out to No Time Records, really quick. No Time Records. It's Tommy. He's from Oceanside. Or not Oceanside, Orange County.
Okay.
Not Oceanside. I say OC, and sometimes I shorten it. Tommy from No Time Records. They're from Orange County, and the All Beat Up LP is a No Time Human Future co-release. That's both of the notes in the Human Future. So we released this LP together, and he rocks. That record label has mostly power violence, but it has stuff that's all over the place. And we're really happy to work with him and connect with him, not just on like a networking level. Like we've become friends. And also at the end here, shout out to Cockring from Sacramento. They are a hardcore band from Sacramento that is so good. And All Beat Up has gone on tour with them 2 years in a row now, going on third.
Hell yeah.
And they put out a record called hold on. I think I'm cooking. Just my coffee. I want to show people because it's so beautiful. They have a record called Altar Call that's also out just on No Time Records. That was just a No Time. Altar Call is so good, and I'm so proud of them for putting out this record. And they say some really important things and have some really excellent riffs that make you want to hit yourself in the face with a fucking brick. So everyone listening to Cockring from Sacramento, Dry Socket from Portland, and every band from San Diego who's ever existed.
Fuck yes. Could not have said it better myself, and always here for any band that makes me want to hurt myself.
That's right. That's right. Give them a listen.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you, Bryan, and I'll see you out here in October.
See you soon, bud.
Fuck yeah. Talk soon.